All right, good morning, everyone. So great to have you all joining us this morning. It is right at the top of the hour, 10 o'clock. And we are thrilled to have so many of you with us this morning. Thank you for joining us as we kick off this really exciting new series. We have had over 250 people register for the webinar today. So I think that in and of itself is great proof of so much interest and so much support for the heart of our city. Now, typically around this time, I'm usually standing on a stage in front of many of you, and I'm sharing that stage with our mayor. But of course, in today's world and moving everything to online and virtual, we've rethought the state of downtown, and we're launching with this series today. So a few of those housekeeping items that are so important for these calls. This program is being recorded, and it will be provided to all of you after the session. Also, save your questions. We will be answering questions at the end. The Q&A bar down at the bottom of your screen is available. You can type in your questions, and Shalissa Perry, our Chief Marketing Officer, will be joining us later on to help facilitate those questions, and we'll get to just as many as we possibly can. Our goal this morning is to take you through about a half-hour worth of presentation and then a good 15 minutes or so of Q&A so that we really get to the heart of these issues but are mindful of everyone's busy schedules and time. Now, our world has changed so much in such a short amount of time in ways that none of us could have predicted. And as the center of our city, downtown has been at the epicenter of so much of this impact. And the livelihood and success of the entire city is absolutely dependent upon how we succeed right here in the heart of it in downtown. So the goal of this series is to really take an in-depth look at the drivers of the downtown Dallas economy, the COVID-19 market impacts, our recovery strategies, and how we collectively ensure that future growth and equitable advancement remain balanced. In future episodes, we're going to speak with the people who are dedicated to making these projects happen, dedicated to keeping downtown moving forward. We'll hear the latest and greatest about their projects and why they continue to invest in downtown. Now, with the changes downtown since March, DDI has been focused greatly on our field operations, ensuring accurate real-time information is passed along to all of you, and that we continue to serve as the voice for downtown. Our Downtown Safety Patrol and Clean Team are here to serve you every day. You can reach them through our Say Now app that's available in any platform in those app stores. And our homeless outreach has resumed our operations as well. Last year, our homeless outreach initiatives engaged nearly 2,000 individuals, and we've been able to send hundreds of individuals home to reunite with their families through these programs. So it's really important that we're able to get back to that work right now. We've also mobilized a storefront restoration grant program, and we've awarded just within about the last 10 days, more than $80,000 to help our small street front businesses. And we've launched a business continuity program to support all of our sectors, our merchants, our small and medium businesses, our large anchor corporations, our property owners, and our residents. And as always, we're monitoring very closely local, state, and federal legislation, not only to serve as a liaison and a facilitator for all of you, but so that we are also continuing to be that voice for the most important issues for downtown as a whole. Now, most recently, we've published an action plan emphasizing the commitment to our mission of creating downtown as a place for all, indoctrinating equity goals into practices in every area of our work. And we're gonna talk about some of that today. But for today, mostly we're going to focus on the market. The information that I'm going to walk through has been compiled from our research partners, input from so many of you who are joining us today, and it's been ground truth by our own economic development team. We aim to be your go-to resource for anything and everything that has to do with downtown. And given the current climate, our State of the Market report will now be updated monthly and available on our website at downtowndallas.com. I'll also note that tomorrow you'll be receiving in your email the latest update, and it'll be posted on our website as well. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into our presentation. To get us started, I will share my screen. And we'll jump into the state of the market. Here in this presentation, we're going to talk about our pre-COVID market as well as some of the COVID market impacts that we've seen. Now, our world today looks very different than what it did just a few short months ago. Social distancing is changing our experiences. We're taking caution in new ways, and there is change everywhere. But through these challenges, we see signs of positivity and signs of opportunity. The community is coming together, and we're showing love right here in the heart of Dallas. Now, all of you are part of this. All of you are partners and our neighbors. And with that foundation of our partnerships and with the vision that's provided from the 360 plan, we have the fundamental tools in place to be able to truly ensure that downtown returns as an international model for recovery and inclusivity. We are committed to a downtown for all that's been built by all. So we all know downtown has experienced a tremendous amount of growth over the last 2 decades. We sit right now with 12,000 residents living in the downtown core in 50 residential properties. We have 139 commercial office buildings with more than 130,000 employees, 26 hotels, and over 100 active development projects. Right now, and you've heard me say this number quite a bit over the last year, we have $4 billion of active development and construction value happening. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about how that has or has not changed since March. Another great sign of opportunity, we have 86 acres of undeveloped land in downtown. That's unlike any major urban area in the United States to have that kind of capability to build from the ground up. We are the #1 metro for attracting skilled talent. And that's really important, as we all know, to today's companies, that they are able to move to a location that has a very strong talent pool. Innovation is definitely being born here. We're the 11th most high-tech city in the entire country. And education is becoming more and more attractive, both citywide and in downtown. Right now, 35 schools serve our downtown area that are either existing today or are under development. We have 16,000 students, college students enrolled in downtown. That's one of the stats that I think people are most surprised by, that we do have that great college demographic, and it's growing with our phenomenal higher education institutions. Recreation, we have over 1,000 acres of parks and green space and 158 miles of regional urban hike and bike trails, most of which are accessible right here from downtown, and over 130 arts and entertainment venues. Now, digging in on the tech and innovation market just a bit, you can see here how this industry has truly exploded in downtown. And when we talk about our recovery strategies, I'm going to come back here because this is where we have a tremendous opportunity to support growth within this ecosystem. Going back to the development capacity, we have also over 7 million square feet of available space in our existing office building stock. I'm going to talk about why that's important and why that's an advantage right now. You can see here also how we compare in terms of construction since 2013 to several other major cities, and the total undeveloped land in downtown. That goes back to that 86 acres, and why that's so important as companies are looking to move their location and how our overall environment is going to change over the next several years. We also have very strong diversity in our demographics, from gender, race, and ethnicity, all the way over to our industry base, which has been diversified greatly since the 80s. We also have a population that is very highly educated with a strong household income, which bodes well for the stability of this market moving forward. And here, I think we all know Dallas and downtown, when you look at the markets nationally, have always been very competitive when it comes to cost of living. But I think this really shows that in every element of cost of living, whether it's your essential grocery shopping to housing, utilities, mobility, and healthcare, truly Dallas continues to outperform anywhere else in the country. Housing options, another really strong point for downtown is the diversity in our housing stock that is just within a 10-minute drive from the city center. So you have, and again, this is unlike many markets, and more when we're talking to companies interested in downtown, this is important. Within the proximity to your urban center to be able to have this much single family stock, and then within the city center to have the diversity of stock that we do, this tells a really strong story. So now let's talk a little bit more about how COVID and recent changes in downtown are impacting us by industry and where we think those opportunities and our challenges lie. Now again, starting with our multifamily segment, this has been phenomenal over the last 20 years. And even today, 1,800 of the 20,000 units that are under construction in the DFW market are under construction right here in downtown. We've seen a steady rise in market asking rent. We've gone from $2.85 a square foot in 2015, and we closed out 2019 at $3.15 in terms of average rent per square foot. We're seeing that overall in the city center, which is really about a 1 to 2 mile radius around the downtown, we're seeing asking rates, if you want to look at it in terms of the total lease price versus per square foot, we're seeing 1-bedroom units averaging over $2,000. But we are seeing from CoStar that there is forecasting happening that we'll see about a 9% or 9 cent per square foot drop due to a lot of the COVID market impacts. However, what we have seen, again, I talked about our team really ground truthing, is talking to all of our members and our multifamily market, we're seeing more of a flattening than we are necessarily a decline just yet. So we do predict that we are poised to have a recovery to start potentially by the end of this year, and our construction downtown continues to proceed. So those are all very strong market indicators. I think we're also very aware that we are in another surge of COVID right now. So where that takes us, I think we'll need to keep a very, very close eye on, but thus far we have been able to weather a lot of these storms. Now, a lot of those indicators are also coming from our conversations specifically with buildings and property managers. And what they're telling us is that they're actually having little residential turnover. They've had little residential turnover since March. Owner and manager feedback is also telling us that they're not having to do as many rent concessions as they had predicted as well. So our hope is that we will continue to follow the trends that we've had in 2007 and 2008, as well as what we saw after 9/11, and that our market will perhaps plateau, but will remain stable as we weather this storm and then be able to recover in a much better position. Now, shifting to commercial office, overall, downtown continues to be the largest employment base in North Texas, and that's incredibly important when we talk about the importance of this tax base to the entire city. We have over 33 million square feet of office space and another 250,000 square feet that's under construction in our very compact 1.1 mile square geography. In 2018 and 19, again, you have heard me say this a lot, we're very proud that downtown was the top performing market in the region when it came to commercial office. So we're paying very close attention to what's happening right now. I go back to the 7 million square feet that's available in our towers today. This is an opportunity for us. This is contiguous space, most of which is in Class A towers that have recently undergone significant redos. Fountain Place, Trammell Crow Center, Chase Tower, the list is really long and it's absolutely beautiful. So this gives us a great opportunity for showcase space in these iconic towers at a very competitive market rent compared to DFW. We're still a couple dollars shy of the average for the entire region. So that positions downtown in this market very, very well. We're also seeing from our conversations with a lot of, again, property managers and brokers that long-term leases have had a much better ability to absorb these market changes than short-term leases. And I think that's fairly obvious, but it's an important note as we think about the types of companies that are located downtown and how we try and predict what the market is going to do in the coming year as we continue to see these market impacts. Moving to our hospitality market, that has been, along with residential, one of our strongest areas of growth over the last decade. We are up to just under 9,000 rooms in 24 hotels within the downtown core. We have another 445 rooms that are under construction, and our occupancy rates in the last few years have continued to perform, reaching often 80% averages, which is very, very strong in the hotel market. But we do know hospitality has undoubtedly been one of the most significantly impacted industries from the COVID-19 market crisis. So what does that mean for us? Well, we have had about half of our downtown hotels temporarily cease their operations. Now, some, as they're opening back up, we're seeing occupancy go from what was an all-time low of 5 to 7% to start to creep up into the 20%, 22, 23. So it's a very slow and steady and cautious increase, but we are seeing activity and interest. And we do expect that to continue to grow. So one of our goals, and I'll touch more on this when we get to moving forward in some of those strategies, is to really look at downtown and our unique opportunity that the urban location provides and double down on our marketing for leisure travel. Really look at those looking for staycations. Look at those who are in drive time. Look at those who are, we're all ready to get out. We're all ready to do things. So let's just rediscover and discover things about our city and really help to support our hospitality, restaurant, and retail industries. And speaking of retail, sitting right before COVID, we were up to over 200 places to shop within the city center. Now, again, that's about the 1 to 2 mile radius surrounding downtown. That's the geography of our 360 plan. And we have about 65% of those right here in the downtown core. Now, CoStar is reporting that regionally, we still have strong retail activity. And the bulk of that delivery is coming with mixed use projects that are in urban areas. So that bodes well for downtown. Just prior to COVID, we were also seeing all of our new construction projects coming on with at least 75% of their ground floor retail space already secured and ready to open when the project opens. So a lot of positive indicators there. So for us, where we've really determined our focus needs to be is helping these retail businesses rethink how they will operate to weather this storm, which means going to more online shopping, going more to appointment and personal shopping. And again, going back to the promotion and tying in, really encouraging that localization of support to ensure that we're carrying those messages of shop and support local to keep our folks in business. Now, we had risen to about a $24 a square foot average lease price in the retail front, but I do caution a lot of these averages within downtown because what our team is really good at doing is breaking even the core of downtown into submarkets, because each neighborhood in downtown, and particularly if you look at the greater city center, has different market performance metrics. So those averages are strong numbers, but we do see a significant difference between, say, Ross Avenue and Main Street versus moving further into the southern parts of downtown and then conversely into the northern sections of the area. So we really have to break it down in that way. And for those of you who are in this business and haven't worked with us before, we can break that down by neighborhood even more. So do know you can use us as that resource. Our restaurant story is obviously very similar. Restaurant, hospitality, and retail, undoubtedly the hardest hit. Before COVID, we had reached 500 restaurants and bars within the city center. Now, of course, we are seeing significant change in operations. Talking to landlords and property managers, really there's no one solution, no one thing that seems to be working. A lot of these businesses have applied and secured PPP loans. Some of them have not been able to do that yet. So there's a lot of variance in terms of how these restaurants are working and how their landlords are working with them on rent forgiveness, abatements, and deferments. We have worked with the City of Dallas on their business support programs. We're also working with the Dallas Entrepreneurs Center Network, the Dallas Regional Chamber, and the Citizens Council on their most recent program to revive Dallas that provides some small business support through grants. So there are resources available, and that's another topic where our DDI team can really be helpful to these small businesses and help navigate all of those resources that are out there. Now, by far our strongest story in the middle of COVID is construction. I come back to that $4 billion of active development in downtown. At our annual meeting in February, I said this, $4 billion of active development happening today. That's still true. None of these projects have shuttered. All of them are moving forward. And not only those that you see right there listed on the screen, which are projects that currently have cranes in the air, but if you read down in the fine print, and you're going to hear a lot more from all of these owners and developers in future series, projects that have been in advanced planning stages continue to move forward. So this is incredibly strong. Again, it's $4 billion of private investment coming into the center of our city, which equals nearly 5 million square feet of active projects. So the fact that these owners and these developers continue to believe that downtown is a strong market is a very, very positive indicator for how downtown will continue to weather. So as we move forward, DDI has put together our economic recovery and social advancement plan. And what that will do is look at all of our market sectors, again, from our merchants to our large corporations, small, mid-sized businesses, our property owners, and our community, and look at how we can best support you and how you all can support each other. And the priorities coming out of that plan rest in these items. We have safe, clean, and secure. We've heard through numerous surveys, numerous interviews, and a lot of personal conversations over the last 3 months that one of the most important roles that DDI can play is to ensure that the fundamentals of keeping downtown clean, safe, and secure are absolutely important. So as always, that is our #1 priority. We remain committed to an aggressive economic development strategy. As I've spoken with our board, I think typically in challenging market times, we want to step back from a lot of our marketing. Instead, now is the time for us to all be speaking and telling the story of downtown louder than ever. So those of you who joined us for our annual meeting at the beginning of the year may remember we launched a campaign, Downtown Dallas Now, Between Now and When. And we will continue to advance that campaign, of course, moving sensitively and cautiously and following what's happening nationally in the market. But we absolutely will be doubling down on the importance of retention and recruitment moving forward. We just have too many opportunities that are coming to us in these challenges. And we will also continue our robust support of development. We have a phenomenal team who helps the development community through processes at City Hall. So for those of you who have not experienced that yet and are interested in it, please reach out to us. We really want to help facilitate the goals and the plans of the City of Dallas with the goals and the plans of our private development community to keep things moving forward. I mentioned before, re-energizing our local and regional marketing. We'll be talking a lot and working a lot with Visit Dallas and looking at how we can really ensure that we are talking about the great story that we have in our arts community, our culinary scene, our retail scene, recreation, all of those things that attract people to cities for leisure, we have here, and we need to tell that story. We're focused heavily on small to mid-sized business recovery by helping these businesses both predict where the market is going to head for their own business development, as well as creating connections within the downtown corporate community. A lot of that is done through our membership base, which I'll talk about in just a minute. And then building place. Prioritizing placemaking is so important to us, and we're not going to shy away from that. One, I think it's been proven over and over again that the value of place directly equates to economic value. So we're committed to our parks, to creating better walkability, and also enhancing our mobility so that we have alternative means to commute, number one, and number two, that we're better connecting downtown with all of Dallas in a very safe and equitable way. Housing in complete neighborhoods will continue to be another very important priority for us moving forward. We're going to press harder for policy to be created that centers around more workforce housing and diverse housing for families, for seniors in the core of our city. Downtown has the bones to be the place where everyone has an opportunity to live, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to ensure development of that type of housing. We're also going to utilize our experts to think about what the new economy looks like. We are changing. The economy changed after 2007 and 2008. We shifted again after 9/11. We want to make sure that we're predicting that we're looking at new and different ways to utilize office space, that we're predicting what new economies will come out of this crisis so that we're positioned one step ahead of all that's happening around us. We also want to mobilize our corporate anchors. There are just so many amazing things happening with our headquarter companies right now. They are diving into support of our city, and we want to make sure that we continue to provide those types of connections and that we're supporting those important civic leaders as we all move forward together. Advancing the community. We are very proud. At least half of our DDI team lives downtown. So the importance of ensuring that we are both really retaining our residential base, but also building those community goals is very important. We want to facilitate citizen engagement. We want to ensure that we're growing a diverse resident base. So our goals related there are certainly still very much front and center. And finally, we will continue to serve as the voice. We will stand up in the best interest of downtown in these local, state, and federal issues. And we'll really lean on all of you as our stakeholders to come together as a community so that we can advance downtown as that international model for recovery and inclusivity. Now, I do encourage you all, I mentioned the Downtown Dallas Between Now and When campaign that was launched at our annual meeting. That is up and live, and it has its own website at downtowndallasnow.com. That is another great place to find all of this market information, as well as some beautiful videos from our storytellers and those who are truly invested in downtown. And finally, the partnerships that we all have, again, are so important. And I really believe that we have the fundamentals to be able to weather this storm, and the participation and the support on this session alone, I think, is great evidence of that. We will recover, and I think we will come out even stronger than we were before, and we will do it all together, because our mantra now is this downtown for all will truly be built by all. So I want to thank you again for joining us. We're going to jump into Q&A here in just a second. A couple of quick reminders here at the end. Again, I mentioned this is an ongoing series. So you're not going to see me up here, although I'll be asking some questions of these great folks. We really want to hear from those who have skin in the game, those who are helping drive downtown forward. So coming up next, we have Ray Washburn talking about his project, the Old Dallas Morning News building. We'll have Sean Todd after that talking about the National and East Quarter and his overall thoughts on the market. Larry Daniels with HRI is going to be joining us to talk about the hospitality industry and what he sees, not just from their property in Dallas, but the company's activities nationwide. And then we'll be joined by Mike Hoke, who began Dallas Restaurant Group. So Mike will be talking to us about both the restaurant industry and his development, New Park south of City Hall and So Good in the Cedars. And we have many more lined up after that, so stay tuned. We could definitely go all summer with the amount of activity and interest that's in downtown. Now, my last little plug, since we've opened this to all due to great demand, and it's not just a member event, I certainly have to make a plug for membership in DDI, fully recognizing that in market challenges, we know it is a very hard thing to think about what organizations you're supporting. But I will say, as a nonprofit, membership helps to support our mission. It helps provide dollars for the advocacy, the marketing, and the economic development that we do, and it helps to supplement those important field operations and the community services that we provide. And I am so fortunate and so grateful for our member base, our board, because these are engaged civic leaders. These are individuals who represent the best of the Dallas business community and how they can give back. So if you're interested in more information, of course, you can certainly call me directly or visit our website at downtowndallas.com or email us at info@downtowndallas.com. So with that, enough from me. I am thrilled that our Chief Marketing Officer, Shalissa Perry, is joining us to help facilitate your questions. So Shalissa, let's dive right in and hear what folks want to talk about this morning.
Sure. Well, just if you've got a question, make sure that you use the Q&A screen to send that off. And we've got a couple great questions so far, so it's a lot of great information, Kourtny. One of the questions is, how do you think the pandemic will affect the long-term use of commercial space in downtown and elsewhere? Do we see fewer employees coming back to downtown as employers offer more work from home options?
Sure, I think that's a great question, and I think certainly one that's on our minds. And what we're hearing is potentially predictions that this goes one of two ways, and probably somewhere in the middle. One is that some companies may recognize that the work from home model really works for a large amount of their workforce. So we potentially could see that kind of shift and a contraction of the market. On the other hand, without really being able to predict how long social distancing guidelines will be in place or even regulations will be in place, we really think that regardless, the way that office space is laid out, the way it's designed, is going to change. And we have many of our members who are experts in architecture and design who have been holding forums to talk about that issue. What does office space look like moving forward? So in the event of expansion to provide more space versus everyone, really what we've done over the last decade is contracted and really packed folks in that great office and common working space, we may see an expansion, which then would lead to more space, in fact, being absorbed in downtown. We predict, like anything, it will be somewhere in the middle. And that's why one of the reasons we really want to bring together some thought leaders is to look at what does the next generation of repurposing office space look like? Again, 20 years ago, we had 40 vacant buildings downtown. We are still running to catch up with overbuilding from the 80s. Those 40 buildings the majority of them were turned into residential and turned into hotel use. So what does that next phase for us look like so that we can balance what we're refilling with traditional commercial office space versus where we might be able to get creative and use some of these beautiful buildings and give them some new life?
Thank you. Okay, I've got another question from Janet, who is a new-ish general manager at a hotel in the West End and is curious what's being done about the homeless population. We have seen a lot of complaints about our area because it's evident, and safety complaints.
Sure. Thank you, Janet. I appreciate that question and the opportunity to talk about a couple of things. One, at the end of 2018, DDI launched a pilot program that's now become an integral part of what we do every day, focused on homeless outreach. So we now have street engagement that occurs from our own teams. We also work with contract case managers from some of our shelter partners in the area. The important difference in the program that we've created is that we are individually engaging these homeless individuals with a very intent focus on understanding their individual issues and connecting them to social service providers that fit their needs. There has not been a tremendous amount of street outreach prior to our program, simply because of the lack of resources. So now we're able to do that. Now, we did have to suspend those services for a couple of months right after COVID hit because there was so much that we didn't know about contracting. But as I mentioned at the beginning, we have restarted those services. And so we're beginning to get back out there. And just within the last 10 days, we've had some phenomenal stories about getting people connected with shelters or some kind of a service provider that fits what they need, mental health, substance abuse. So that's our very tactical, on the ground answer to that question. Now, there are also some larger policy issues at play that we're involved in. One, we're working very closely with our shelter partners. The capacity of our shelters is changing. We were already operating near or at capacity in a lot of these facilities. And now with guideline and distancing restrictions, we are facing that challenge as a city. Now, the city of Dallas has recently looked at different opportunities to increase their funding for outreach, and we hope that that happens. So that is certainly something, I think, in terms of where we can engage as citizens in a business community to help solve for some of those more long-term issues, while we are also helping people on the streets right now today. So thank you for that question.
Thanks, Court. So a couple of questions that are related to mass transit and mobility and how future plans have been affected given the current situation, specifically D2 and others.
So the status of some of our mobility projects?
Yes.
So with the DART second alignment, right now planning is moving forward. DART has been holding public meetings. They're still doing design work in a lot of the stations. Now we also know DART has been one of those systems that's been severely impacted by the market constraints. So there has been activity and I think optimism in terms of being able to move that project forward. But like a lot of things that are occurring in downtown right now, it's something that we're closely monitoring. Interest in the streetcar expansion, so taking our current modern streetcar starter line that runs from Bishop Arts District to Union Station and brings it through the core of downtown. It's called the Central Dallas Link. We've been working on it for several years. There has been some increased emphasis on restarting that planning. So just within the last couple of weeks, we have been in some meetings related to that. So we're hoping that moves forward. But there's also a lot of attention to how these systems will operate moving forward that's being had. So we are also very much from a mobility perspective, in addition to public transit, and I mentioned this somewhat briefly, very much focused on prioritizing bike lanes and multi-use lanes. As we continue to need alternatives to transportation for what we call those short trips, so trips that are within, roughly a 2 to 3 mile geography, we think that biking solutions are great. And as Dallas has come out and rediscovered our trail system, again, we look at those opportunities and our challenges, we think that demand for those lanes will be higher than ever. And it is a wonderful, very equitable mechanism to connect our city. So you're going to see DDI continuing to invest like we did most recently with Bike Harwood, which is a new bike lane that connects the Cedars all the way up through Main Street Garden. And we've just started planning for the northern sector that will go north of Harwood over to Clyde Warren Park. So we'll continue to focus a lot on those types of bikeability, walkability, and transit initiatives moving forward.
Great. One other question. How have you heard building owners and property managers are ensuring a safe reintegration of employees into their buildings?
Very good question. And I think what another really wonderful thing about the Downtown Dallas Inc. membership community is that we've been able to partner with great organizations like BOMA, the Building Owners and Managers Association, to share best practices. So we're following the guidelines, but then we also have a lot of our property owners sharing information with each other. And some of the standards that we're seeing, I mean, here in our own building in Bank of America Plaza, there are regulations in terms of how many people can be on an elevator at one time. There is a requirement to wear masks in common areas. We're also seeing increased sanitization schedules. And the few times I've been up here in our world headquarters office, we see counts. So all of the property management staff in this building are keeping track of how many people are in the building at one time. And from the conversations that we've had with other multi-tenant towers, those are pretty common practices. There is tremendous attention to these issues from our building owners. And in fact, probably at least a couple of our staff members have been spending the majority of their time on just that. So we do feel very much that our office towers are taking every precaution possible and continuing to monitor as new guidelines and best practices come out.
Great. One other question here. What tactical initiatives are in place or planned to ensure more economic and racial diversity within both residential and commercial populations of downtown and the urban core?
Mm-hmm. That list is long. So let me highlight a couple of the action items that we're taking, and then I do encourage you all to look at the action plan that we posted just Friday before last. It's up on our Facebook page. It was emailed out, and there you can find it, I think, on our website now, right, Shalissa?
Yes.
So I do encourage you to look at that because it will go much more in depth than the just 1 or 2 minutes that I have right now. But a couple of different tactical things. One, from a housing perspective, we had already begun drafting a study to look at the diversity of our housing stock in downtown and determine the ROI for the development community to build diversified product. And that was intended to look at both price point and product type. So when I mentioned really building more family-friendly housing, more senior housing, more diverse stock than just the 1 and 2 bedrooms that are the majority of our housing stock today, the study was intended to look at that as well as workforce and affordable, the whole housing spectrum. That RFP will be let here very soon. The study is drafted and we do have it funded. So that is one way that we want to look at the economic modeling and determine where there are indeed gaps to making this happen, and then look at mechanisms to be able to solve for those gaps, both within the public and the private sector. So that's one tactical action to look at this. Another one that I've spent a lot of time thinking about goes back to our placemaking initiatives and building community. And when we look at our public space, downtown, again, is inherently the place where everyone in the city should be coming together. So we want to ensure that the public spaces and our wonderful parks, we've opened so many beautiful spaces over the last several years, and we have many, many more coming down the pipeline. We want to look at everything from the design of those spaces to ensure that design is done in a very equitable and welcoming way, to the way that we program them and the way that we're offering these spaces up to multiple communities, and that we're paying very close attention to our cultural programming and doing things that are authentic to multiple communities. So those are just a couple of the very tactical action items, which is a very good question because it's easy to talk about, but I know it's more important to act. And I encourage you to go back and look at that action plan as well. And we'll be talking a lot more about that in the coming months as we move forward with many of those items.
Okay, and this is the last one, and it's a good plug moving forward. It's a question to Mike Hoke about how COVID-19 might influence the strategy of his development. So Court, I'm going to turn it to you to talk about future sessions.
Yeah, great. That is a great intro, because I certainly don't want to put words in Mike's mouth, but I will say, and I think Mike would be comfortable in me sharing this, that he also shares optimism. He has invested in downtown for over 15 years. We often laugh that we've grown up here together and really weathered a lot of storms. So we, I think he will continue, and he will share some really important thoughts on both the restaurant experience down here, as well as where he sees his long-term developments headed, which is a really good story. And I really applaud Mike and Nafis with Dallas Restaurant Group and their dedication to keeping those restaurants open in downtown. And I know they're going to reopen just as soon as they possibly can. So let's look forward to hearing more from Mike soon. And there we go. Thursday, August 13th, you'll be able to hear directly from the horse's mouth. Again, some reminders. We will have Mr. Ray Washburn coming up next on July 9th, followed then by Sean Todd and Larry Daniels with HRI. And as I mentioned, we do have several more weeks of programming coming after that. Again, one more quick reminder on membership. If you're interested in getting more involved with Downtown Dallas Inc., please give us a call. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank all of those members and board members who are on with us today. Your leadership and cooperation is absolutely imperative to what we do. And your civic and business leadership will be imperative to how we as a downtown collectively move forward. So thank you all for your time this morning. It was wonderful to be together. And please reach out to us, downtowndallas.com. You will find all of our contact information there. And we are here to serve each and every one of you every day as we build a downtown for all. Thank you so much.